Hey, welcome everybody. I'm glad you could hop on for this call called Break the Pattern. And I help women who are in love with addicts, have relationships they might be a partner to, or a parent of, or a child of someone with addictive qualities. I guide people for better communication and just kind of like to learn tools and boundaries. So my business is Circle of the Sun Healing Room, and I've been running it since 2003. And 6 years ago, I got certified as a coach. So so my coaching is has been in person, and now I've been more transitioning to online coaching and also working in my Facebook group, which is Empowering Women Who Love Addicts. So if you haven't had a chance to hop on there, I invite you to do so. I see May has joined us. Hi, May. um, so I would love to hear from everybody here. Either you can take off unmute yourself and hop on and say a few words about why you joined this call and what you'd hope to, or anything you'd like to learn, or you can pop it in the chat. So could we start with Supriya?
Hello. Hi, everyone. I joined this group on the video today because I've had a pattern for a long time of having partners who are addicted to something. And I'm not in a partnership right now, so I don't have that issue currently. But whenever I have a partner again in the future, I'd like to not have that pattern continue. So any tools that I can get to help with that would be great.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'll ask May to hop on, or if you're comfortable, May, to say a few words.
Yeah, sure. I could definitely relate to I'm sorry, was it Supriya? Yeah, to what she was saying as well. It could be something so little that seems innocent to something more extreme, but can relate to that. And also, I mean, within myself, I definitely am getting rid of all the vices I have in general. So that's been very clearing, but there's also certain things like even addicted to fitness or addicted to stress eating, stuff like that. But it's still all just something, right? Like coping mechanisms, I would say. So yeah, just, wanted to hop on and support and also see what I can get out of it.
Awesome, that's great. All right, and so we were chatting with Sherry, and something with her audio was making her sound like there was a voice, like filter, so she kind of sounded like a bank robber. But Sherry, if you want to unmute and see if it works, and if not, you can just chat, like in the chat box.
Okay. I'll try it again. How does this sound?
You're still sounding like you have some weird filter.
Weird. Okay. All right. I'll post it in the.
Okay, put it in the chat box. Yeah, we were having a bit of a laugh with that.
Have you tried getting out and coming back in? Maybe that would help.
She did. She logged off and logged back in, and it
So weird. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it though.
So while I'm waiting for Sherry's chat, I'll give you a little bit about my background. So I grew up with two parents that drank too much. And so there was, like typical fighting and chaos that would come with that. I mean, they're all so fun. I mean, they were kind of like the life of the party. But then there's like the after party, and us kids had cleanup duty. So, we'd have to go downstairs, but it wasn't just like straight clean. It was like actually walking over like passed out bodies, like who were like sleeping people who were probably hungover, and clear the dishes, and like the ashtray piled up like this, which was pretty stinky and gross. And so it, anyway, so I left obviously my parents' house in my later teens to go to college, and then started my own pattern of attracting men who mainly was alcohol, some drugs, and was like had chaos and sometimes fighting. So there was like 3 significant relationships through my 20s that impacted me. And by the time I got to the 3rd one, I would kind of, it's like a light bulb went on. It's just like, okay, what's going on? Like, so I sought help. I had a therapist and a coach to help me break the pattern. And then I realized, like, wow, I'm like repeating my parents' marriage. And like, and then I kind of questioned afterwards, like, how come I didn't figure that out? but it took me actually getting some help to realize, like, it was all subconscious patterning, and it felt, familiar, right? So yeah, so I'm happy to say I've been married quite a while now, and I'm with a good guy that he's recovering alcoholic, but he hasn't had a drink in many, many years. And our marriage was a bit rough at the beginning, having to work through things. But yeah, anyway, so the skills that I learned in my younger years have helped me navigate a healthy marriage now. So oh, sorry, I'm just gonna look at Sherry's post and share about why she's here. So her youngest son is struggling with drug addictions, and it's been very challenging emotionally, very stressful. And she'd like to know how to best handle and help herself to de-stress. And she was married to a man with severe porn addiction that had a big impact with post-traumatic stress disorder. So yeah, so that's a lot going on, Sherry. So yeah, I'll kind of share a few things on the patterning and kind of why it happens, and offer some tools for communication and for de-stressing. So there's a term called habit loop, and it's a psychological term that there's a cue or a trigger. And then so our brain goes into automatic mode. We're not even like aware of it, but then a behavior unfolds. And then when it becomes repeated enough, then a routine follows. So that habit loop is kind of starting with like this routine. And then there's a reward, like that part in our brain that lights up and it says, I feel good, or I feel this way when I've had that behavior or that substance or that thing going on that creates that habit. So it's something that to be aware of, I guess. Well, whether it's for yourself, am I indulging in like the occasional treat or pleasure, or is it now becoming, say, I'm going to use, say, for myself, like I have to be careful not to get into sugar too much, because I can go, oh, I'm just having just a little bit, right? And then I wonder why. It's like, oh, why am I not feeling energetic? Why am I needing to nap, right? So personally, I've been off sugar now this is day 3, and I have energy to go from morning like until midnight, and I haven't needed to nap. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe, even though I didn't have a ton of sugar before, yeah. So anyways, no sugar, no flour. So I'm feeling better. Sorry, just Trying to figure out where we're at. Habit loop. Yeah, so obviously the addicts that we love have their own habit loop. And who knows when their patterning might have started, but you know, they're usually addicted to some kind of substance. Usually it's a problem, maybe not sugar, you know, their behavior might not be so bad if it's just sugar, but if they're addicted to like drugs or alcohol or porn or God knows whatever else, you know, then their behavior gets so dependent on that thing that is number one for them, and we are not number one for them. And this obviously can impact our relationships, impact the quality of communication, of being seen, of being heard. And because like when you're number 2 or number 3 or 4 down the priority list for your addict, then yeah, it can be hurtful. It can be like we feel like we're not good enough. You know, I've been through that myself, where it's like, oh, if I love him enough, if I do this behavior, he'll change. And that doesn't work. You know, the person has to have a desire to want to get better. So so these habit making behaviors, neuroscientists have called that part of the brain the basal ganglia. And so it's the development of our emotions, memories, and pattern recognition. So it's just something to be aware of as you navigate relationships or even your own patterns too. And we can become addicted to the addict. And so like for my own patterning, as I shared, was growing up with that, and it was subconscious patterning. And I didn't even know until I learned that I was doing this pattern and that I was addicted to the addict. And when I was in those relationships, I had my own patterns that weren't good. Like the alcoholic would drink their drinks, I would count how many beers were out of the beer case, right? So I could, like, if I have control and I can keep track of what they're doing, then maybe I can change the outcome. And, you know, I'm sure you might have heard this, but trying to doing the same behavior and over again and hoping for a different result and not getting it is like crazy making behavior. So, and I'm like all familiar about crazy making behavior. And I find that when you're in that, sometimes you're not even aware of it because you're using like force and ego and like trying to change the outcome. And it can be challenging, very challenging to live with that. And other terms like walking on eggshells. You know, if I say this or that, like, boom, we're in a blow up. And so have compassion for yourself. If you're having a hard day, just, you know, take some time for yourself, like go, like literally hug a tree. There's really good energy in nature, you know, or put your feet in the sand. Now that it's getting into nicer weather, you know, if you have a beach or a lake nearby or something, right? Just have compassion for yourself and just take some time for self-care. So when we try to change the pattern, our ego, be careful, our ego is going to try to stop us. The ego wants to be right. The ego is our those automatic thoughts that come in and you're not even aware of it. Like it's like autopilot. And when there's fights, say within the relationship with the other person, it's usually like ego hitting ego. And the more you dig in, the more that person is going to dig in and have their stance. And it generally doesn't go anywhere. Like that is kind of like not beneficial. Like so some of the tools I'm going to be talking about are to learn to be more present, because coming from our ego, which does not want us to change, it's quite happy having us doing the same patterns. That's where you have to go, okay, breathe. Where am I now? Like, and just check in. And you might have to do that multiple times in a day. So here's an example. Like, if you left an addict and you're back in the dating world, you might end up with your subconscious patterning having you reject actually someone who is like could be a really good person for you. Because your ego and your subconscious patterning is like, oh no, this person's too nice. This, person I'm dating is too nice. And then you'll find something to no, you don't like this about them, and have you break up with them, like before it even gets going. And there might not actually be anything really wrong with the person, but your subconscious patterning will have you end it before it can get going. So, and this is something like I had to learn when I was like working with a coach and working with a therapist, is like, be aware, like you might break up with somebody who could be a good person, but it wasn't chaotic enough. Like my subconscious wanted the chaos. So I had to learn to break the pattern from chaos. But here's an example where I had to question. It's actually kind of funny. So I was dating this guy, and we went out for a few months, and he lived in his parents' basement. And I would come over and visit, and he was a very nice guy. Actually, he didn't drink. He was like super into fitness. Like he was like a different kind of person than who I dated before. So I thought, oh, good, I can report back to, my coach that like I'm having some success. But he wouldn't, like, I asked him if he would put a door on the bathroom, and because there's no door, and it just kind of felt like an invasion of my privacy to have to pee and have it heard by him or whatever. I said, can you put a door up, or curtain, or put something up, right? And he wouldn't. Like, he said, oh, it's my parents' house. And so I'm going, oh. So it did take me a little bit to evaluate on, keeping track of, say, red flags, like is this really a red flag, or is this like my background subconscious saying, dump this guy because he's not respecting you or whatever. So it was just an interesting learning point. But I did not stay with that person because there was that and then a couple other things. And I'm going, no, I think there was a little bit of creepiness there. So I left. So I would just say, if you are going to be in the dating world, try to have like an honest look on, is this actually something that is kind of like weird or creepy, or is it self-sabotage? So, because if it's just self-sabotage and the person could actually be a decent partner, then you have to learn to live with calm. Like if you've lived with chaos and have that patterning of attracting chaos, you have to retrain your subconscious, and you have to learn to live with calm. And once you do, honestly, it's worth it. Like I've lived with calm for years now with my husband, and I mean, it's kind of boring sometimes, but I've learned, like, honestly, boring is good. Like I'm not having a roller coaster for a relationship where you're like, oh my God, we're like madly in love, or we're making up, and it's like, whoa, passion, and then like boom, like fighting and chaos and just crying and high emotions and storming out of the house and all that stuff that I used to do. So anyway, so yes, I've learned calm is good, and you can learn that too. So um now I want to talk about 3 tips for better communication and quality of life. So step 1 is evaluate whatever's happening now. Is it the situation or is it your ego? So when things come up, be the observer of your thoughts. And like I was saying, like that patterning, our thoughts might want to sabotage us. But check honestly, is whatever the situation is, if it is the situation, that's fine, address it. And I'm going to give a couple of tools in a bit on communication. If it is the situation, great, you can figure out your next steps to address that situation. But if it's just if it's your ego trying to get in the way, then you can just take steps going, oh, it's that ego thing. And sometimes you can visualize like the little good little angel and like the little bad angel on his shoulder. And then like you're like, so then you can just talk. If you're hearing the stuff from like the bad little angel, you can go, I got this handled. Thank you for sharing. You can go to bed now, and just kind of like send it away, and then just to get back to feeling centered, because honestly, we do get this voice in the head. We're human. We have the voice in the head. So it's a matter of figuring out, are you centered and present and really hearing what's going on, or is your ego trying to step in? So that's like being present in the now moment. And when you're present is just to even say, let's try this now, just put your hand on your heart and let's just take 5 calming breaths. Feel into your body. Let your shoulders drop. Picture the warmth of the sun on your face. And just picture a beautiful word like love or empowerment or whatever word suits you right now, and breathe into that. And then just say thank you. Thanks for this moment, this now moment of being present in your body. So you can open your eyes. And so that was very quick to do. So it doesn't take long to hit pause and get back into your now moment. And sometimes we have to repeatedly choose, like now, like, you could do that. And then 15 minutes later, you're like a little squirrel or hamster or something running on a wheel, and you're going, oh, great, let's do this now moment, right? It's just like, okay, breathe before your next segment of things you have to do. And another example, say if you're at a park, you're on a nice walk. Are you tuned in to hearing the birds, to feeling like the nice breeze on your face? Or are your thoughts on the other person? Or are your thoughts on like today's global issues? So it's bringing yourself back to the present as much as possible will help your heart expand into love, and to just feel joy, like, because you're actually here and now. Like, so if you're in a park with the trees, allow yourself to feel joy of just being there. And then if you are having to talk to somebody, you can, so this, now we're going to get into step number 2. So step number 2 is setting boundaries. So if someone is confrontational or kind of at you, it can be challenging. Like even myself with my great husband, I still have to like bite my tongue sometimes and think of my responses, because in my personal opinion, he doesn't become as consciously living as I am, although that's like probably my ego talking right now. But so then instead of my just replying a retort to him, so some things you can do in the moment is to help diffuse the situation is like, I'll think about that. Or you could say, okay, I hear you. And can we talk about this later? So then it gives you time, because you might need to think about a response. And if the person is a bit heated, it doesn't always go well when you try to say your response, because then it might be like you'll have your rebuttal and then they'll continue it in an arguing fashion versus a, like, let's just have a conversation. So I hope this makes sense to people. Okay, so I do have an example. So way early in my marriage, I don't even know if we had, oh yeah, no, we did have a baby then. Anyways, my husband was, he's better now, but he was like very anal. And so I'd be in the kitchen and like, I'd make my coffee and I'd spill a little bit and then bring my food and my coffee to the table and he'd go, big huff, and he'd come up behind me and like get a cloth and wipe the coffee off the counter and he'd go, I wish you were tidier. And like, so after this happened like repeatedly, and I was like, I'd be so nervous because I feel like he was like watching me in the kitchen. And I was like, geez, I feel like this patterning from my earlier years is coming back. Like, what is going on? So anyways, I finally had a talk with him about the kitchen police. That's what I termed it as. And I got him at a time when he was like calm. And I'm like, honey, I feel like really limited and like honestly, like couldn't move or do anything because like you're staring at every friggin' move I'm doing. And being like the kitchen police, that, I mean, I want my hot meal and my hot coffee and I'll do a good cleanup after, like just, can you not do that? And thankfully he was able to hear me. And I brought it up at a time when we were calm. But he has his patterns from his childhood that come up. Like, honestly, sometimes when we were parenting our younger child, I saw his dad in him so much. He just like, blah, 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 and like bark something out. And then if it went on too many times, honestly, I would have a talk with him. And I'd say, I think that's overreacting. And so, yeah, so thankfully I've been able to diffuse some situations and have a chat with him, but I choose when to do it. I'm not going to do it in the heat of the moment. We'll talk, plan a time to talk later. So sometimes scheduling a time to talk can help. And mirroring can help as well. Because sometimes people just want to be heard. And my husband has brought that up with me. He goes, I feel like I'm not important and that what I have to say doesn't matter. So we've learned this tool called mirroring. And when we're having a conversation, an important conversation, he'll say something and then I'll mirror it back. So what I heard you say is, you know, that you need ABC done. Is this correct? And he'll say, yeah. And it helps the person feel validated and heard and respected. And so that can help too, for a person not to have to be at you as much, because they actually felt heard. So now I'm going to get into step 3. So step 3 is an expansion exercise. I actually learned this. I became a facilitator with Access Consciousness. There's bars and there's like different levels, and I've done different levels with Access Consciousness. So we're going to do an expansion exercise. And this exercise, if you have forewarning before you want to actually talk to somebody, this is a good one to do, like kind of to really get yourself centered. And then go and talk to the person. It almost like it clears your energy so that it can create a different outcome. So what I invite you to do now, and this won't take too long, maybe 2 to 4 minutes, I think, is, oh, I see May, sorry, May Tang had to leave, so she'll catch the replay. All right, so we're gonna get back into some breathing, and then I'll guide you into an expanding exercise. So close your eyes, let your shoulders drop. Just breathe in and out, just relax. Breathe in, out, and relax. So now I want you to feel in your body. Just breathe in, feel the energy of your body. Now think of the word expand. Expand, expand, expand. And feel your inner self, your inner light, your God light expanding. Because you are not your body. You have a body, but you are not your body. And go expand, expand, expand. And then just picture your beautiful, energetic, love light self expanding. And now you are a few inches beyond your body. And breathe into that. And just keep breathing into that, and just think of the words expand, expand, and feel your beautiful self expanding beyond your body. If you've got that, nod your head. Now we're going to expand a little further. So just keep using the words expand, 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 and expand further. So you're going to fill the room energetically. You're going to fill the room. And just taking deep breaths and use the word in your mind, expand, expand, expand. And your beautiful, energetic, soul level self can fill the room and doesn't have to be contained by your physical body. And just breathe into that expansion. Now we're going to go further. Take your expansion and times it by 100. Say expand times 100. And now you've left your moving from your body outwards, 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 and through your town that you live in. And picture up through the clouds, picture down into the ground, expand, expand, expand. And just some more deep breaths. And keep expanding. Expand, expand. Now take that expansion times 1,000. Expand, expand, expand. And then you're going to go further and further and across the universe, because you are unstoppable. Your beautiful God and goddess self, your love and light, is not stopped by the physical body. And just expand and enjoy the sensation of floating, expanding, the wind on your cheek, floating through the trees, into the earth, across the lake. 2 more deep breaths into this expansion. And let your shoulders drop and let your hands just be in your lap. You can come back to the room, open your eyes, kind of wiggle your fingers a little bit. Now, I find when I do that, there's a clearing, there's a sense of space. And yeah, I just feel like the ego hasn't stepped in. And from this place of your true knowing, then go have that critical conversation with whoever you need to talk to. Just to be from your, like you're speaking from your soul level. And drop a note in the chat if you found that exercise helpful. So that's pretty much wraps it up. I just, does anybody have any questions from today, from what I've presented today? All right, so Supriya found it relaxing, and Sherry said, yeah, both said relaxing. And do you feel like this could be a helpful tool before talking to someone to kind of get yourself centered? You can drop it in the chat if you want. So I am planning to do regular Zoom calls. I haven't scheduled them yet, but I'm going to choose some different topics, and also to do some Facebook Lives. So yeah, I'm always open to input on topics on that. If you can think of anything, drop it in the chat on a topic that you think could be helpful. Yeah, so with that expansion exercise, Sherry said it would depend on how intense the conversation could be. And yeah, like I get it. And that's where you would try to speak from your soul level or your heart level, and try not to have your ego butt up against somebody else's ego, because that can happen, right? And if the other person kind of keeps at you, that's where you could use some of those other tools on, okay, I hear you, or mirror them, see if mirroring helps. Or can we talk about this later? Because then you might think on, when can I address this with them when they are not in a heated state? So I hope that helps. And then Supriya said, yes, it helps to know the bigger picture, which can minimize the conflict of what the discussion is. So yep, no, that makes sense. And yeah, I think that if you kind of have an idea of the bigger picture, then you can be more empowered. And yeah, and just be conscious of how you're communicating and how you're showing up to that conversation. So I am going to, I don't see any other comments right now, so I'm gonna close up this meeting. And I just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining in. And I look forward to presenting more of these, and feel free to join my Facebook group, Empowering Women Who Love Addicts. And yeah, and I'll come up with different topics to discuss and yeah, engage with you. So I'm going to stop the recording now.